In our last episode, we absolutely obliterated expectations in our first year in charge of KF Vllacnia in Albania. The team had not won the league since 2001. We took care of that, which means this season we're going to be playing our first Champions League matches since that same year. Welcome back, everyone, to season number 2 of Red Rain. I'm Mr. Cellophane. If you enjoyed the last episode, and it seemed like a lot of you did, I really appreciate the support. Please make sure you hit the like button on this video. I want to get it out as far and wide as possible, just like episode 1. We do start off, though, back at the beginning, because there's something that I didn't really touch on throughout season 1. You may have noticed in the transfers that we made, the majority of them were loan deals. And here is why. We started out with about 15,000 euros in debt, a transfer budget of 930 euros, and we were already outspending our wage bill. So we played most of last season without any spare cash. That's why one of our biggest moves was a free transfer when we brought in goalkeeper Alberto Savini. This year is a little bit different. 2 million in the bank, 400,000 in the transfer budget, nearly 7,000 in the wage budget. Now, we have moved things around, and some moves have been made at the point of this particular graphic, and we're going to go over them now. First, we start with the outs, and 25-year-old midfielder Isant Mala was the first one to go out the door. Had a pretty decent year for us, 6 goals, 5 assists, and a 7.04 rating, but he was not interested in re-signing his contract with us, so he left for free. He's off to Turkey. This one hurt a little bit. Our starting left back, Isan Hakai, did not want to re-sign with us, which was a somewhat common theme last year because we just didn't have the money at the time, and they didn't feel we'd be able to pay for them. So Kayserispor came in with an end-of-contract offer. Hakai had 8 assists for us and a pretty decent time. Wasn't as strong defensively as we would have liked him to be, but we wish him all the best. And then came the out that hurt the most. Bruno Gomes wanted to leave the team. He wanted to leave the team very badly. He made us promise that we would sell him if an offer above a certain amount was received. Well, sadly, our 23 goal scorer from last year received a 165,000 euro offer from Estrela Amadora in Portugal, and he is off to the West. We are sad to see him go. The team wasn't happy. The fans, frankly, weren't happy. But to be honest with you, neither was I. 27 goal contributions in 26 appearances for us. I think the promise, if I remember correctly, was for 130,000 euros, and then Estrela Amadora just came way above that, and we frankly just could not say no. We couldn't risk aggravating the player any more than we already had. At that point, we were actually having players come and saying, hey, you should just let Bruno go. And for the longest time, I resisted until I just couldn't anymore. And this one feels a little anticlimactic after the Bruno Gomes bombshell, but 18-year-old left winger Kevin Dodai has left the club on a free transfer to KF Bilis. While he made a dozen or so appearances for the club 2 years ago, he couldn't break into our first team, so not a big loss in my book. Just a few more to wrap up the outs in the transfer window. The remaining deals were loans for our youth players to get them a little seasoning and a little bit more playing time. Elsewhere, Gerald Kubazi, the 18-year-old striker, went out on loan to KS Besa. Same thing with 17-year-old striker Matteo Mariani. He's off to KF Fora. And now for the summer ins. The first couple are going to look a little bit familiar. The first one is 21-year-old Croatian center back Luka Broderic. He was in on loan with the club last year from Istra 1961 from his home country. We worked out a transfer for him. Cost us about 90,000 euros. That's where the money went that you didn't see in our transfer budget, but I was very glad to bring in the 6'3" center back. We were also able to strike a deal to bring in for free midfielder Branimir Shavar, who had joined us on loan last season. 5 goals, 6 assists in 15 appearances. We figured we could use a little bit of experience in that midfield because we were expecting a decent amount of turnover this season, and we were looking to build for that Champions League squad. Also joining us for free is 25-year-old Albanian defensive midfielder Michael Brakilika. He could also play center back in a pinch, standing at 6 foot. Good marking and tackling for the league. Great decision-making, concentration, aggression, fantastic. Where I want it, positioning, very good, and a decent work rate as well. Not the fastest, not the greatest in the air, but we got him at a great price, 130 euros per week on a contract through the end of 2027. And I guess I should also note that most of the players we brought in, we did not pay a transfer fee for. We still have quite a bit of that transfer money. It's kind of one of those catch-22s. We could spend the money on players, but we can get players of the same quality for very little money or free, because when you start taking that step up in quality, those types of players, they just don't want to join a club like ours. But we got 20-year-old Noel Bozicki for free. Central midfielder, great decision-making. Vision's okay, but his passing is very good. Great first touch, decent amount of technique. He's quick, although his acceleration isn't the greatest. But that decision-making is really where it came down to. He's also got a fairly determined personality. He is also very, very consistent, and he's versatile. He can even play on the left wing, even though that's not really a role that we play. Very glad to bring him in for 150 a week. Quick side note, during the winter transfer window, we did loan him out to Partizani. We needed a backup goalkeeper, so we stayed local. Albanian international, he's got a cap, ladies and gentlemen, Mario Daisanani. Now he's rated as a leading player in this league, could potentially be a star. He was willing to come to us as a backup for backup type money, just 275 euros a week on a 2-year contract. And even better, he is homegrown in Albania, which is very important for our European squad. Always looking to shore things up on the back line. We brought in 26-year-old Brazilian Marcos Ramos, 6'3", a physical specimen. Great jumping reach. He's decent with his head. He's got a little bit of pace, at least enough for the position. His positioning itself is a little suspect, but his marking and tackling are absolutely excellent. He's got great timing for challenges. He is consistent. He's fairly determined. And he's 170 a week. Even better, we only picked him up for like 57 grand. And our final in of the summer was another midfielder, and a versatile player at that, in Damiano Gini. 30 years old, so a little bit older than what we normally look for, but again, he just fits in with the squad. He's got a nice balanced personality. He enjoys the big matches, and we needed a player that enjoyed those big matches. He is consistent. He's got bravery as long as the day... That's not how it goes. He has as much bravery as the day is long. That's what's going to happen. And we just needed a veteran presence to really lock things down in the middle of the pitch. And while we're not necessarily going to talk about our European journey until later in the episode, something that I got to say, it ticked me off a little bit, ended up happening to us. So on July the 9th, we had to submit our roster for the Champions League. We were taking on FK Astana. The problem is the transfer window didn't open until July the 10th. So all of the players that we signed and brought in at the beginning of the window, none of them could play for us in our first Champions League match. Before we got our regular season kicked off, though, we took on Tirana in the Super Cup, and I had a feeling we were going to have a pretty good year after I saw this match. A hat-trick from Bakim Balai, a hat-trick from Luka Tosi, Alfred Ajdarovic scored a goal, Noel Bozicki scored a goal, and Andre Yago ended up scoring a goal as well. Brian Heisa got one for them in the 84th minute. We came this close to a clean sheet. We faced 19 shots, 8 of them on target. Mario Daisanani was in goal for us, and he was spectacular. He deserved much better than that 7-3 rating he got. Bozicki ended up with the man of the match. 3 key passes, 3 chances created, and he picked up 3 assists to add to that 1 goal. And you know what? I'm just going to get this out of the way. We got bounced out of the Albanian Cup in the second round, which is the round that we enter in. We were on the road at Erzeni. We shot 25 times at Albania. We hit the target 6, couldn't find the back of the net. Meanwhile, Erzeni got 7 shots off, 4 on target, converted a penalty in stoppage time in the first half, and that was all of the scoring. And I guess what really surprised me the most about that is we kicked off our season at home against Erzeni, and we beat them quite handily, 8-3. Luka Broderic got the scoring started, his first of the year. Luka Tosi scored, giving him a lot of time. In fact, you haven't really met Luka Tosi, have you? He is a 17-year-old. He was in our youth system, and we decided to start playing him as one of our strikers this season. And Luka Tosi, for all intents and purposes, has gotten off to a very good start. Now, we are using him somewhat sparingly this year. He's already capped twice at the U21 level as a 17-year-old, so we knew that he must have been somewhat special, but he started the year out with us. We did end up loaning him to Partizani just to get some more game time and seasoning because we weren't using him all the time. Little inconsistent, but that fairly determined personality. He's also got a tremendous ceiling. Ended up making 5 appearances for us in the league. Just that 1 goal, surprisingly. So he really kind of got off to a start and then throttled back a little bit, which is why we thought that maybe sending him somewhere else would be the best thing for him and his development. We also might as well chat about another young player making their debut for the club this season that were in our youth system last year, because he also scored in this match, and that is Clyde Ibrahimi. He is a right back naturally. He can also play on the left-hand side, so he gives us the depth we need over there. A quality player, great crossing ability. He's got good tackling. His defensive positioning is really good, great balance. He's not the fleetest of foot, but he's got a little bit of speed relative to our level, and that nice professional personality we all love in this match. They rate him as a center back, but he's 5'9", so yeah, he's not getting any. Well, he got a little bit of game time there because, well, frankly, we needed him too. But maybe we'll touch on that later. I don't want to make any promises I can't keep after all. We followed that up with a solid, if unspectacular, 1-0 win on the road against newly promoted El Bassani. Bakim Balai getting on the score sheet for the first time this year. In the 83rd minute, El Bassani only managed the 1 shot. They couldn't hit the target, so I was fairly certain that we were coming out of this one with points. In fact, to be honest with you, I kind of felt that way through most of the early part of the season. After that, on the road, 4-1 win against Teuta. We beat Bylis 2-1 at home. Tirana 5-2 on the road. A pair of goals for Damiano Yini. Luka Tosi scoring a pair of goals in that one as well. Dinamo City, we knocked them off 4-0 at home. Beat Agnacia 2-1 at their place. Bakim Balai and Clyde Ibrahimi scoring in that one. KF Lazio, we blanked them 4-0. Did the same at home to El Bassani with 2-0 score, back-to-back clean sheets. And we rounded out the month of October with a 3-1 victory on the road at Flamutari. Ibrahimi, Realdo Fili, and Andre Iago, each picking up goals in that one. So yeah, we picked up victories in our first 10 matches in the league of the season, and that all came crashing down against Erzeni. Again, we kicked off the month of November with a 2-0 loss on the road. Enjoyed a nice palate cleanser at home, beating Teuta 3-0. Got a goal in that one from center back Milos Stojanovic. I don't know if we really highlighted him in the last episode, playing a ton of games for us in the league at center back. Decent in the air. He's only 6 foot. Remember, he was the tallest of the center backs we started the year with last year. He is still back there. He is spending most of the time. He is rotating a bit with Marcos Ramos, but most of the time he is spending standing next to Luka Bradaric. However, our reverie after that beautiful clean sheet victory was washed away. We only played 3 games in the month of November. We lost 2 of them, including this one to newly promoted KF Bielis. Ismail Cisse with a pair of goals for them. Vasilis Rensas and Jurgen Gosha also scoring. We did get a goal from Andre Yago from the left back position, and Damiano Gini did score from the penalty spot. But there wasn't a lot we could do. They managed to hit the target on all 8 of their shots. Still, we ended up with a fairly successful December and January, just dropping points in a 2-2 draw at home against Ignacia, but Kimbalai saving us from disaster, getting 2 goals in the 86th and the 93rd minutes of this one, which we followed up with a 2-0 loss on the road to Lazio, making it 2 matches back-to-back for the first time all year that we dropped points. We also failed to win in our first match of 2025. Alberto Simone's goal in the 50th minute was the difference, just 2 shots on target for El Bassani, and they were still able to beat us 1-0. And in the middle of the month, we dropped a massive egg on the road at KF Teuta, losing 4-0. Absolutely hapless in this one. We missed 10 shots, hit the woodwork once, only a single clear-cut chance in this one. 4-0 on the road was embarrassing. But I think the team felt it and realized what they needed to do, because after that, we beat Bielis 5-0, Tirana 5-1, and the only points we would drop for the remainder of the year would come in back-to-back 2-2 draws against Bielis and Tirana, those very same teams in the beginning of April. So it will come as absolutely no shock to you that we absolutely ran away with the league. Now, KF Bielis had an excellent season and came in second place. The bad thing about that is I don't know how ready for Europe they're going to be. El Bassani ended up in third, and Flamutari came in fourth. So all the teams basically that were in Europe this season are not going to be in Europe next season. But yeah, 87 points and winning the league by 29. I'll take that any day of the week. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there were moves that we made in the winter. We're going to cover them now. Most of the outs were development loans, like Paolo Minella, the 17-year-old attacking midfielder going out on loan to Pagradeci. Arlen Ndoya, a 17-year-old midfielder, much the same. Now, I will note that KS Pagradeci is an affiliate of ours, so naturally they're going to take a good chunk of our young players on loan, give them a little playing time and seasoning. Bojiki, I already mentioned earlier, we loaned him out late in the month to Partizani. And likewise, 17-year-old striker Luca Tosi, who unfortunately didn't get as much playing time as I would have thought he would with the second-tier side, just making 5 appearances and scoring a single goal. Meanwhile, in the first half of the season, he played for us 16 times and scored 5. So here's a player you didn't see before because he spent last year out on loan. Well, we brought him back, thought we'd make some use of him because he could play right and left back, but come mid-season, we decided that we had better options on the bench, so we loaned him out to KF Lazio. There is one more out, but I'm going to have to go through the ins first. You'll see why in a minute. First in, a natural left winger, but a man we brought in to play at striker, predominantly on that left side, although he is very two-footed, so it really didn't matter which position we put him in. And that is Realdo Fili. Yes, he's 29 years old. He was U21 international once upon a time, and he was absolutely fantastic for us. Made 23 appearances, scored 6 goals, 7 assists with a 7.07 rating. We got him for free. He was at Teuta last year. They didn't re-sign him. He was kind of just sitting around for a while, and we were like, okay, I'll take him. We were also looking for a little bit more help at our left back position. It was kind of unsettled for a decent amount of the year. We got 10 appearances out of 23-year-old Serbian Luka Klajic. Pretty decent player. again, he's got the consistency, his concentration, like his mentals are kind of above average or average for this league. Okay positioning. He was a body, and he was a body that served us pretty well, made 10 appearances in the league off of the bench, 3 starts, didn't contribute offensively, but a 6.73 rating for essentially a backup player, a backup wingback. That's not terrible. Now we get to the explanation. We brought in 20-year-old Serbian Luka Nenedovic. We got him for free, and he had just such potential that we just could not pass him up. He's not great in the air. He's primarily a defensive midfielder. He's also natural at center mid. His leadership ability in the future looked really good to me. A decent work rate. Passing and vision were fantastic. Like, he basically met all of the metrics for what we needed in our system, so we couldn't help but bring him in, but we wanted to make sure that he was going to develop, so we immediately loaned him out to KF Bilis. And finally, we brought in one last center midfielder. We got him for free. We were looking for a body. We got him for cheap. Again, he's got that consistency. He's got a average to positive personality. He likes big matches. Not a ton of potential, but we just absolutely needed somebody else, and that somebody else was Ray Picani. Oh, don't for a second think that I forgot the playoff system. No. We met Flumentari in the semifinals and absolutely wiped the floor with them. Alfred Ajdarevic with a pair of goals, Realdo Fili with a pair of goals, Ildi Gruda with a goal. He was primarily playing this season as our target forward, although we would switch around with Ajdarevic. We kind of rotated our strikers through quite a bit, to be perfectly honest with you. We had Creamy in there a lot. He was our captain, after all, at that defensive midfield position. Long story short, though, we cruised into the final, where we would take on Elbasani, and they never stood a chance, and we lifted the trophy again. 3-0 was your final score. Bakim Balai got the scoring started from the penalty spot. Then Realdo Fili scored to make it 2-0 at the half, and Alfred Ajdarevic put the nail in the coffin with 30 minutes left. A very solid performance. Very happy for the boys, and our second consecutive championship. You may be wondering how we did in Europe. You do need to remember that we started the Champions League campaign before any of the players that we signed over the summer joined the club. So we were a little short-handed for our initial match at home against the Astana, and it showed. They blanked us 3-0. It was 2-0 at half, but it was over long before that. The only thing we could manage on the score sheet were yellow cards. Things were better for us on the away leg. We still couldn't register any of those players. They were happily sitting at home watching this one on TV. We did manage a 4-3 victory on the road. A pair of goals by Alfred Ajdarevic. Ildi Gruda scored. Luka Bradaric scored from the penalty spot. 4-3, though, wasn't enough to overcome the first leg, and we got knocked out of the Champions League 6-4 on aggregate. So we would enter the competition in the Champions Path second qualifying round, and we were taking on Dudelange from Luxembourg, and this was more the performance we were looking for. We got our signees registered, at least the ones that we had signed at the very beginning of the window, and we absolutely ran roughshod over our opponents. A pair of goals from Ajdarevic. Balai scored. Ardit Krimi scored from the penalty spot. And Luka Tosi, for good measure in added time, made it 5. We did lose Marko Juric in this match. He was injured and unavailable for the road leg. But that really didn't matter. We played this match in front of less than 400 fans in Luxembourg. Another brace for Ajdarevic, Gruda, another goal, and Luka Bradaric also getting in on the scoring. We scored all of our goals in the first half. They did manage one in the second, but 9-1 on aggregate at the end of the day, which would lead us to a third qualifying round matchup against Žalgiris Vilnius of Belarus. And at home, we managed a 2-2 draw. We were leading this one 2-0 in the 90th minute, and then Darius Silkaitis scored for them, and they got another one 2 minutes later to equalize. So we headed on the road even in this tie. But something just clicked in Vilnius. 1-0 your final. We ended up winning on aggregate 3-2. Alfred Ajdarovic with the lone goal. He had already at this point scored, I believe, 5 in all competitions, and we hadn't even started the regular season. So at this point, all we would need to do to get into the Europa Conference League proper would be to take care of the Icelandic side, Víkingur Reykjavik, and on the road, we did just that, coming away with a 4-2 victory, which led to a home match in front of over 14,000. Now, Víkingur made things quite interesting, scoring the first 3 goals of this match. They led 3-0 at the half, but then we stormed back in the second with a pair of goals from Bekim Balai, Alfred Ajdarovic scoring again, Luka Tosi adding one in the 74th minute, and an 8-5 aggregate victory would lead us into the Europa Conference League. And if you needed further proof that certain things in Football Manager needed to be tweaked and fixed a little bit for the next edition, we first get a news article saying that the Europa Conference League path 4th qualifying round provides no shocks. Only the next day to receive an article that says we shocked the world by winning in the league path 4th qualifying round. I was going to make a joke here about American news outlets, but best not to get political. So we kicked off our league phase campaign in solid, if unspectacular, fashion. Now, we gave up a penalty early on that Jan Arne Und converted for Brann, but then Bekim Balai was able to tie it up. Not a ton of shots or offense in this match from either side, but hey, at least we got a point in a true European competition. Unfortunately, though, the cracks in our experience and our reputation as a club would start to shine through in our second match. We took on Lask on the road, lost 2-1. We were pretty much dead and buried 14 minutes in after Rene Renner converted that penalty. Damiano Yini kept us in it by scoring in the 19th minute, but most of the match was going the way of the home team. Although after our next match, we were kind of smelling ourselves. We went to Athens and we beat Panathinaikos 3-1. Ajdarovic picked up another goal, another brace for Ildi Gruda. We were also received the benefit of a missed penalty from Panathinaikos. All in all, a very solid performance, even though they pretty much dominated us in possession, which, frankly, par for the course. Sadly, though, our tough draw started to get the better of us with a 2-0 loss at home against Genk. An identical result, again at home, against Portuguese side Vitória Guimarães. And frankly, what I consider a very disappointing 3-1 loss on the road to Dnipro 1. I mean, really, at the end of the day, we only ended up with 4 points in our 6 matches, so not the showing I was really hoping for. If we had been able to turn one of those matches around, Brann. If we had beaten Brann in that first match, we would have actually qualified for the knockouts. But how did our Albanian compatriots fare in continental competition, you may ask? My answer would be better than last year. Dinamo City drew 0-0 in the home leg, but were able to beat Riga in Latvia 2-0 to progress to the second qualifying round. The second qualifying round pitted them against Zira from Azerbaijan, and they took a 2-1 victory on the road, picking up a goal in the 91st minute of the match to secure victory, where they returned home and took care of business 3-0 on the night, 5-1 on aggregate. Sadly, they would go no further than the third qualifying round as they were matched up against Greek giants Olympiakos. They lost 3-1 on the road in Piraeus and could not manage a goal at home, just getting 2 shots on target to lose 3-1 on the tie. Meanwhile, Tuta also took on a side from Iceland, much like we did. They beat Valor on the road by a score of 2-1, and with a 1-0 victory at home, were able to secure a spot in the second qualifying round, where they met up with Finnish side Kups and fell at home by a 2-3 score, while falling on the road to a 2-1 score. Una Grönholm for the home team almost scored a hat-trick, missing a penalty. Erando Karabici made it somewhat respectable in the last minute of regular time, but a 5-3 aggregate score, and Tuta is out of Europe. At least they fared better than KF Tirana, who matched up in the first qualifying round with North Macedonian side, Vardar. They lost 1-0 on the road and could not manage more than the exact same result at home. But that would give us 3.875 coefficient points for this season, which is a ton better than last year, giving us a grand total over the rolling 5 years of 9.625. So even though we started the season in 49th, if I've done my math correctly, we will catapult 9 spots up the list, and we'll see when we review season 3 if we are actually beginning the season in 40th, like I think. A much better showing for Albania in Europe in Season 2. Hopefully we can keep that going next year. We made the league phase of the Europa Conference League. Let's see if we can get a little bit further in the coming year. Let's see if the teams around us can carry their own weight. They did better this year, to be fair, than they did the year before. But I'd love to climb up into the 30s and start getting some more spots in Europe and better spots in Europe. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Season 3 is coming your way, 10 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday. You can also catch my Director of Football series. We are kicking things off pretty well with Russell Olympic in the Vanarama National North. New episodes coming out every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at the same time. See you around for Season 3. Until then, my friends, bye-bye.